1, action.
Tatanggap ko yung phone ka.
Welcome to the 2012 National Debate Competition between Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Marikina and STI Marikina. To start up with the first speaker, Mr. Glenn Villarreal.
So the motion given to us is that the House believes that the House would allow single parents to raise their children behind bars. So the clear-cut definition would be convicted parents in the Philippines would be given a chance to raise their children even they are inside the prison cell. So first, let's start off with the mechanism that our side had created. First would be parents are in legal rights to their children if their partner is already deceased. Second mechanism would be a monitoring body that would monitor if these single parents' partners are already dead. Third, single parents are allowed to raise their children behind bars only until its 10th year of age. And last but not the least, only the parents have the legal rights to whom they will give the custody of their children if their children is 10 years and above. So in the status quo, or in the present situation, a lot of single parents who are in jail don't get the rights when it comes to their children's custody, because automatically children will be put or given to the custody of DSWD. So today I will discuss the capabilities of DSWD to give the emotional needs that a child wants. So DSWD's only task is to give the children their want of food, of toys, the shelter, the dress that they would use for every day. So the government side wants the emotional attachment that is not given by any other person other than their parents. So in short, DSWD's task is to improve the welfare of the children. But some children have this feeling of also being in jail because they have this limited time to have fun, to mingle with the others. Some have their household chores given. They are how do you call this? They are given a task that is not suited for a young or for a children. So hence the government side strongly believe that the SWD's capabilities of managing children for their emotional needs is not suited for them. So next speaker, please.
For the leader of the opposition, Ms. Joella Toledo.
So, my rebuttal would be, of course, I don't agree with what Mr. Villarreal said. Villarreal. Assuming without considering that children that are 10 years of age would be put in the SWD, would give them shelter, love, and care and support, because as we all know, what child see, child commits. So raising children behind bars will push them to imitate the violent doings that they experience or see inside the jail every day. So the argument would be, this house would allow single parents in prison to raise their children behind bars. According to the New York Times editorial, young people who the study says that young people are 36 times more likely to commit suicide in an adult jail than in a juvenile facility. Given the fact that raising children behind bars are not good for children, protecting young inmates through placing them in isolation will not be a good notion because of the possible mental disorders. Disorders that the children might encounter, like attempting suicide. Aside from those violent actions that they might come across, the stereotypical vices inside the bars are the norms of these prisoners. Some can help to continue these vices for their everyday lives. These detains, as we all know in our society, won't adjust for other benefits. This shows that these innocent children tend to suffer from their parents' wrong behavior that will affect on their emotional, physical, and spiritual status, causing them to imitate violence and vices that they encounter behind bars. Exposing children into shocking behavior of the people in jail will have a great impact on children. This will give them mental disorders that will lead them to suicide and violence. The said facts will prove that the children that are raised by the single parents will not be allowed inside the jail. That's all.
For the second speaker of the government, Ms. Angela Manuel. Woo!
Thank you, Ms. Joey. But I strongly disagree on your argument that that the children should not be allowed to grow up inside the jail or inside or behind the bars simply because they might be able to adapt or have mental disorders. Because definitely these children, since we already gave the specific span of age wherein they are to stay, basically, definitely the government will also give specific activities for them not to be just isolated, because on your example, that given example is not applied here in the Philippines. Therefore, if that are already the cases in other countries, I think the government will be sensitive enough in working out on those issues like developing mental disorders in having children isolated if they are being raised behind the bars. So, other than that, Miss Joey, for your information, vices aren't allowed inside prisons. So definitely, if you will see, there are even more vices that the children might adopt from the outside world, especially if they are not guided by their parents. Therefore, on the government side, we say that allowing parents to raise their children even behind the bars will ensure a lifelong good parent and child relationship. This is under the principle that if a parent or the parent relationship will be best bonded during the first years of the life of the child. We all know that once a person or a child is already developing a relationship with his or her mother or father, therefore, regardless of how long they will be apart from each other, at least there is already a built love and relationship between them. Let's say, for example, this is just like in the example of an OFW. It's the same situation somehow, for in that case, the parent or the mother will also be staying afar from the child. Though given that that is for another reason. But then still the issue is the parent will be absent physically. But if the parent was able to at least establish a strong relationship with his or her child, definitely as the parent comes back, the child will still be recognizing that parent. Unlike if the child will be growing up away from the parent and there was no even a little relationship developed between them, there is a great chance that the child will not even recognize the parent as his or her own biological parent. Especially in the case of a prison, that there is a connotation that if you are a convicted person, you are a bad person. That will also add an idea to the child that he or she should not recognize his parent at all because that is a bad person, without even considering that he or she is still his or her parent. And other than that, we also know that Filipinos are really into family orientation. If the child will be allowed to stay with his or her parent during that time, we will be able to ensure that the parent will give no other thing for that child but love and care, because whose parent will be giving an unpleasant treatment to the child unless that is not, even those parents who are taking care of children who are not even their biological children, they're still giving love and care. What more for those who are the real parents of the child? So therefore, on our side, we believe that allowing single parents, like a mother or a father, to raise their children behind bars will definitely secure a good relationship between them, for there was love built and established as their foundation, even regardless of the years counting or regardless of the years that they will be apart from each other. That's all. Thank you.
For the second speaker of the opposition, Mr. Tristan Crisostomo. Woo!
Thank you, Ms. Angela, for your very informative points. Wherein I have observed that you are definitely raising your points to let the parents raise their children inside the prison. Well, basically, the prisoners are inside the prison for them to fix their lives, and on the so that on the later part, if they will be again outside the real world, they will not apply whatever bad thoughts they had before. Well, the parenthood regarding the parenthood that Miss Angela were saying, wherein a parent and a children relationship is being it doesn't make any guarantee that a child in the prison together with his parent, that later on the child will have this productive life that which Miss Angela has been telling about us earlier. Well, childbirth is not so joyous for the growing number of women who give birth behind bars. It is a time of humiliation, sadness, and separation, before, during, and after delivery. Prison mothers are commonly shackled. No one is there to take those first baby pictures, and the infant may be whisked away by a social worker to be given to a family member to raise. Or if they are less fortunate, the child goes to foster care. The mother returns to an 8-foot by 12-foot prison cell to grieve. The bond between mother and child is broken at the moment of delivery. But what if the system worked differently? What if women who had not been convicted of violent crimes and who had to serve short sentences were able to bond with their babies, even keep their babies with them? Well, recently I had listened to the first part of an NPR Morning Edition series called Who's in Prison? It discussed about the growing numbers of mothers in prisons. First, telling the audience that in America right now, one in every 100 adults is incarcerated. In the pre-introduction, NPR posted a correction. The fact is not in every 100 adults is behind bars, that more than in 100 American adults are serving time in the federal, state, and local prisons. Well, as I have read on the NPR, the story focused on an Ohio program that lets some of inmates keep their babies with them. At the Ohio Reformatory for Women, a dozen babies are spending time behind bars. Too young to say the word crime, they are the participants in a program that enables inmate mothers to raise their children in their cells. When I heard about the prison with baby program, I thought it was on the good surface. But something about the program disturbed me or bothered me in a way. I asked myself, what if it gets out of hand? What seems like a compassionate solution to a mother or child separation ends up keeping children with their mothers in prison for longer periods of time? We must begin to think of what life must be like for both the prisoner and their children. It is indeed sad, but I guess that's the price they have to pay. And I do realize it probably sounds judgmental, but what I do know is that it must be one of the hardest ways to live. To live, not to be free, to desire, to love, tenderness and affection, and not to receive it. Life must be tough for these inmates, just like it is for millions of others. A baby can live inside prison with his mother, but expect that a child grown from an isolation is worse as a dog kept in a cage, not given the right of freedom to explore and grow. We must think that having a biological parent beside us is something basic for every child to have. But unfortunately, again, a child must grow in a conducive environment and face complexities of it as well in order for him to be responsible for himself. What a child might think as he grows. I live in the Women's Correctional and begin to wonder each day that he shouldn't be there because he might have got most privileges that every child had outside. The prison is for prisoners who were convicted for crimes. It is not for children, wherein the future is within them, still starting to enjoy their right to life that naturally includes freedom.
For the whip of the government side, Ms. Rebi Rose Umlas.
I believe that the government side had won this debate because the rights of the child as well as the parent has been diminished by the government. The SWD is not capable of giving emotional needs to the children. Children should be with their parents even if they are in jail because guidance is what children needs. Having the children with their parents will have good and close relationship. I believe also that it would be very unhealthy if a child grows without being able to spend enough time with his or her parent. That's all.
For the reply of the opposition, Mr. John Michael Makasaki.
Good evening. Well, Mr. Chair, I really don't understand the logic of the government side and the need for single parents to let their children grow behind bars is something they haven't sufficiently addressed. Under their model, by letting those children stay on those filthy and hazardous jails, they are simply putting those children themselves danger physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And that is the saddest mistake they have ever done in today's debate, because under their logic, they say that DSWD is taking care of the children of those incarcerated parents, which is quite impossible. Upon knowing that the employees of the DSWD have MAs and PhD in psychology and in other forms of science in the behavioral science, which I think were quite impossible. Second, assuming without conceding that the DSWD is incapable of taking care of those parents, isn't it there are other relatives of those incarcerated parents and the other parent who is not in jail who can actually take care of those babies instead of putting them in jail? Second argument raised by the second speaker said that allowing parents will ensure lifelong good parenting-child relationships. Assuming without conceding that the children need their parents to take care for them. Most criminals' parents can parent well, let's say. But how can they take care of their children if those incarcerated individuals themselves don't have the means to actually take care of their children? How can they give the best parenting skills if they themselves are deprived of a safe and secure place, if they are deprived of a safe and secure place to live in? Yes, for the first few years of a child, a parent-child relationship will actually be good for the child. But when the time the child learns to crawl and walk, will the jail still be safe for those children? Will the incarcerated mother's love will be sufficient to provide the needs of the child? Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I will show you why the negative side won based upon 3 grounds. First is because of strong arguments raised by the opposition side, which the government side was not able to effectively rebut. The first speaker of the opposition side efficaciously expressed that exposing children into shocking behavior of the people in jail will have a great impact on children, which will give them mental disorders that will lead them to suicide and will affect on their emotional, physical, and spiritual status, causing them to imitate the violence and vices that they encounter behind bars. By definition, prisons are closed environments. They operate outside the normal controls and the processes of society. If the children will be able to live with other prison inmates, then definitely they will face significant changes in their living arrangements and relationships with others. This uncertainty will only aggravate the trauma, stigma, and other risk factors for the child that actually often accompany the incarceration of a parent. Second, in the second speaker of the opposition side persuasively articulates that jails are a hostile environment for the children. The fact that it is an environment of violence, it is not permissible for children to have a good conduct on the hands of incarcerated individuals, which is indeed true. Let's say in the present situation, the jails in Metro Manila account for 22,000 inmates, which is more prisoners than the official, prisoners than the official capacity that they can actually accommodate. At the Manila City Jail and other prisons in the NCR, inmates have to take turns sleeping on the floor. Herding individuals in cramped spaces is cruel, human, degrading, and ill. Overcrowding is dangerous to the health and to the human life of both the incarcerated parent and to the child, for it breeds diseases, breaks down discipline, and exacerbates tensions. Indeed, with all has been said, the opposition side, I can say, truly dominates the debate in terms of the presentation of the arguments. Second ground, the opposition was actually able to effectively rebut all the arguments of the government side, using logic and evidence to show their opponents why his or her arguments do not work. Consequently, they show that the evidence presented by the government does not support their modes of contention. And lastly, which I think is the most important thing that the opposition side was able to do, was that they were able to show the pitfalls of the strategies presented by the government, exposing logical flaws in their premises. Hence, the negative side should win. Thank you.